Welcome everybody to this little follow-up video of my 90s jersey dress which I made for Christmas. And it involves this little hairpin I made to go with this dress. And making this hairpin is a rather simple technique. It is basically just felt with lots of beads mounted onto it. And with this method you can make various kinds of jewelry. For example, I made this headband with basically the same technique, or this obnoxious necklace with a horrendous amount of beads. And I'm going to show you how you make any type of jewelry featuring this technique. And I started out with drawing the shape I wanted onto my felt, which was in my case a crescent moon, and I just used a marker for that. I used a very heavyweight felt for that, just because it holds its shape a little bit better, which is nice for a hairpin. For the beading I used a variety of beads I had at home. I had very tiny seed beads, some silver beads and sequins, but also added white beads and a chain in the process of beading. And this chain is exactly what I started with. I sewed it on very lightly, but this chain really had the advantage that I had like small areas where I could start the beading, and it's much easier to think of beading patterns when you have small areas than bigger ones. So I always like to break up my project into very tiny areas so I can think of a pattern more easily. And in this case I had this little waves, and I placed a sequin in each and every one of them, and then surrounded that with 2 white beads and a silver bead, and filled in the rest with the little grey seed beads. And that was how I went on about this whole hairpin actually. And after thinking of the pattern I use for the beading, the long process of actually doing it starts. And I have to say, it wasn't that long. I was finished in like 2 evenings. I had far worse beading projects, but this was really quick. So I'm thinking that you can use this very same technique to make other things like embellishment for dresses. You can do various things with this technique, and I think it's a very nice way of making custom jewelry, because when you work with metal or something that's not needlework, and if you're very fond of needlework, you can make very nice jewelry that doesn't look too self-made, I'd say. And when I was all finished with the beading, I just had to cut it out, and I cut very close to the edge but not too close, so I don't cut any of the thread. And then off camera, because I struggled with it a little bit, I sewed tiny grey seed beads all around the edge. And the last thing to do was make this thing actually functional, which was sewing a hair clip onto the back. Obviously you could just glue that, but I thought maybe I want to use this as something else in the future, so I sewed it because I could rip the stitches out very easily. And I placed an eraser between the two parts of the clip so I can sew it on a little bit easier, because obviously you don't want to sew through the whole thing because, well, you couldn't open it. And it made it a little bit easier to handle this with an eraser or something else in between. And that was it basically. This was a rather simple video, and maybe nothing new to many of you, but I really liked this hairpin, so I thought I'd share the process as well. And if you like this video, consider subscribing to my channel to don't miss any new videos that are coming up. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.